15 minutes. That's all it takes to change the direction of your life. Not 15 years, not 15 months, not even 15 days. Because sometimes all it takes is a moment of truth, a moment of honesty, a moment where you finally stop running from yourself and decide to step into the light of who you really are. For years, we are taught to chase perfection, to keep our flaws hidden, to stay small, to be what the world expects us to be. But the truth is, every time you silence your truth, you bury a piece of your soul. And life isn't meant to be a performance. It's meant to be a connection. You can have all the success in the world, all the recognition, all the applause, but if you don't have peace within your own heart, none of it matters. The next 15 years of your life will not be determined by what others think of you, but by how deeply you're willing to love yourself, forgive yourself, and show up authentically, even when it's uncomfortable. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the birthplace of strength, courage, and creativity. When you allow yourself to be seen, truly seen, you give others permission to do the same. And that's where real leadership begins, not in control or perfection, but in compassion and authenticity. You may have spent years building walls to protect yourself from pain, but those same walls are keeping out the love, joy, and freedom your soul has been longing for. So if you want the next 15 years to be different from the last 15, take down the walls. Let your heart breathe again. Let your truth speak. There will be moments when you'll stumble, when fear whispers that you're not enough. But remember this, the fact that you feel fear means you're standing at the edge of growth. Lean in. Don't run from it. Every challenge is an invitation to evolve into the person you were born to become. And when the noise of the world gets loud, when doubt and shame try to pull you back into smallness, pause and remind yourself, I am not here to be perfect. I am here to be real. I am here to live, to love, to grow, to serve, to rise. So in these next 15 minutes, make a decision, a sacred decision, to stop living by fear and start living by faith, to choose truth over approval, courage over comfort, purpose over popularity. Because one day, 15 years from now, you'll look back at this moment, this single powerful moment, and realize it was a turning point. The day you decided to take off the mask, open your heart, and start living a life that's truly yours. The power of one moment can redefine everything you believe about your own life, because transformation never truly begins with a perfect plan or a grand opportunity. It begins with a single decision, a quiet whisper in your heart that says, enough, it is time to change. Every great story you have ever heard started with someone who finally decided to stop waiting for permission. Someone who understood that one small act of courage could open the door to everything they have been dreaming of. It is not the size of the step that matters, but the willingness to take it even when you cannot see the whole path ahead. That is the mystery and the miracle of a single moment of choice. It carries the potential to reshape your future, to rewrite the story you tell yourself, to shift the energy of your life from surviving to thriving. Most people spend years waiting for the right time, the right chance, the right approval, but the truth is those perfect moments rarely come, because perfection is not real, progress is. When you stand at the edge of change, trembling and uncertain, that is when your life is asking you to leap, to trust that something greater will meet you in the air. You might think that one decision cannot possibly make a difference, but look back for a moment. Every major change in your life began with something small, a conversation, a thought, a spark of realization, a moment when you said yes to something unknown. Those are the sacred moments that shift destiny. They are the points in time when you step out of the old version of yourself and into something truer, stronger, freer. It does not matter what your past looks like or how many times you have tried and failed. What matters is this moment right now, the one that is asking you to begin again. The power of one moment is not about doing everything. It is about doing one thing differently, thinking one thought more kindly, speaking one truth more bravely, choosing one step that brings you closer to the life you truly want. Because when you change one thing, even one thing, the energy of your entire world begins to move. Sometimes that moment comes in silence, when you are alone with your own thoughts and you realize that you are tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of settling. Sometimes it comes in chaos when life pushes you to your knees and you have no choice but to rise again. And sometimes it comes in the gentlest way, through a sentence, a look, a feeling that tells you there is more waiting for you if you are brave enough to claim it. Whatever way it comes, do not dismiss it. Do not say, I will start tomorrow, because tomorrow is built on the choices you make today. One moment can change how you see yourself. It can break the pattern of doubt and fear that has been holding you back. It can ignite a fire that no one can put out. That is why awareness is powerful, because awareness is the birthplace of transformation. The second you see clearly, you cannot unsee the moment you understand that you are responsible for your own becoming. Everything changes. The next 15 years of your life depend on how you treat the next 15 minutes. Will you keep repeating the same story, or will you write a new one? Will you stay silent, or will you speak your truth? Will you keep waiting for signs, or will you become the sign yourself? This moment right here is sacred, because it is alive with potential, and in it lies the power to begin again, to heal, to grow, to transform. The power of one moment is not a myth. It is the reason that change is possible for anyone at any time, including you. Authenticity over perfection is truth that most people spend a lifetime trying to understand, because from a very young age, we are taught that being perfect is the goal, that our worth depends on how well we perform, how well we fit in, how flawless we appear to others. But the reality is perfection is an illusion, a moving target that no one ever truly reaches. And the more we chase it, the further we drift from who we really are. Authenticity, on the other hand, is raw, imperfect, and deeply human. It is about showing up as yourself without hiding behind masks, without pretending to be something you are not, and without editing your truth to make it more acceptable to others. The moment you stop performing for approval, you begin to live with peace. Is that because the weight of pretending is heavier than the weight of being misunderstood. There is a freedom that comes with authenticity, a quiet strength that builds from knowing that you are enough, you are as you are. Be not you are flawless, but because you are real. The world celebrates perfection, but it connects through truth. And that is why the people who make the greatest impact are rarely the ones who appear perfect. They are the ones who are honest enough to show their cracks, their struggles, their humanity. Perfection isolates. It creates distance, but authenticity invites closeness. It says, I am human just like you, and that is what builds connection, empathy, and trust. When you live authentically, you stop measuring your life by how it looks and start measuring it by how it feels. You begin to listen to the quiet voice inside that knows who you are beneath the expectations, beneath the noise, beneath the fear. And even though authenticity can feel uncomfortable, even though it can cost you approval or admiration, it will always give you something more valuable, peace of mind, because no applause can replace the peace of being true to yourself. There will be times when authenticity will test your courage, when telling the truth will feel harder than playing the part, when standing firm in your values will make you feel alone. But that loneliness is temporary, while the alignment you gain lasts forever. Every time you choose truth over perfection, you build self respect, you build confidence. You build an unshakable trust with yourself. Because the greatest betrayal is not when others doubt you, it is when you abandon yourself for the sake of fitting in. Authenticity does not mean exposing everything. It means expressing what is real. It is not about sharing every detail of your life, but about ensuring that whatever you share is true. It is about speaking from the heart, making choices that align with your values, and refusing to shrink to make others comfortable. There is beauty in imperfection because it is the proof of life, the evidence that you have lived, learned, and grown. Perfection tries to impress, but authenticity inspires. Perfection seeks validation, but authenticity seeks purpose. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you make space for joy, for creativity, for connection, for growth. You stop being afraid of failure because you understand that failure does not define your worth, it refines your wisdom. And when you embrace that truth, life begins to feel lighter, more real, more meaningful. The next time you feel tempted to hide your flaws or silence your truth, remember that your authenticity is the most powerful gift you can offer the world. It is what makes your voice unique, your presence unforgettable, and your journey valuable. You do not need to be perfect to be worthy. You only need to be real, because authenticity will open doors that perfection could never reach, and it will lead you toward a life that feels honest, free, and truly your own. Vulnerability is strength, though for most of our lives, we are told the opposite. We are told to hide our pain, to toughen up, to act as if everything is fine even when it isn't. But that is not strength, that is fear wearing armor. True strength comes when you are willing to be seen as you are, when you let your guard down and allow the world to witness your truth. A vulnerability is not about weakness, it is about courage, because it takes an incredible amount of bravery to stand in front of others and say, this is me, I don't have it all figured out, I am still learning, I am still growing, and I am still worthy. The world tells us that being open makes us fragile, but in truth, it is the act of closing ourselves off that breaks us slowly from the inside out. When you hide your emotions, your fears, and your dreams, you build walls that protect you from pain. But those same walls also block out love, joy, and connection. Vulnerability is the bridge between your heart and the hearts of others. It is what turns strangers into allies and pain into purpose. It is what transforms your story from something that happened to you into something that can heal someone else. Every time you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you are saying yes to being human, to feeling deeply, to connecting authentically, and that is where true power lies. People often confuse vulnerability with weakness because they see only the risk, not the reward. Yes, vulnerability exposes you to rejection, disappointment, and judgment, but it also opens the door to love, compassion, and understanding. You cannot experience the fullness of life without allowing yourself to feel its rawness. The same heart that breaks is the heart that loves deeply. The same soul that trembles is the one that finds courage. Every scar you carry is proof that you have survived something that was meant to destroy you, and your openness about those scars becomes a light for someone else who is still in the dark. There is power in saying, I need help. I am scared, because those words are not weakness, they are honesty. And honesty builds connection. When you drop the mask and show up as yourself, you create space for others to do the same. That is how healing begins, not in perfection, but in truth. Vulnerability invites authenticity, and authenticity invites freedom. The moment you stop pretending to be invincible, you begin to experience life as it really is, unpredictable, messy, beautiful, and full of grace. It takes courage to show your emotions in a world that rewards performance, but your emotions are not your enemy, they are your compass. They guide you toward what matters, what hurts, and what heals. When you numb your pain, you also numb your joy, because the heart cannot choose what to feel selectively. To live fully is to feel fully, and to feel fully is to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is also the birthplace of creativity and innovation, because every new idea, every dream, every act of courage begins with the risk of failure. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you are saying, I am willing to try, I am willing to fail, and I am willing to rise again. That is where growth happens, not in safety, but in surrender. The greatest leaders, artists, and visionaries are those who dared to be vulnerable enough to share what was real, even when it wasn't perfect. So do not hide your softness. Do not bury your emotions. Do not silence your truth, because your vulnerability is not something to be ashamed of. It is your greatest source of connection, compassion, and courage. The more you embrace it, the more powerful you become, not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because you finally understand that being open does not make you weak. It makes you whole. And in that wholeness lies the strength to live, love, and lead with a heart that is unbreakable, not because it never cracks, but because it always heals. You build walls to protect yourself, thinking that if you keep your guard high enough, nothing will hurt you, no one will disappoint you, and no pain will ever reach you again. But over time, you realize that those same walls that were meant to keep out the hurt have also kept out the light. You start to understand that every brick you laid out of fear, every layer of defense you built out of disappointment, has slowly turned into a cage that keeps you trapped inside your own loneliness. Tearing down those walls is not easy. It feels terrifying because it means exposing the parts of yourself you have worked so hard to hide, but it is the only way to truly live. Love, joy, connection, and freedom cannot find their way to a closed heart. They only enter through openness. At some point, you have to decide what matters more, being safe or being alive, because safety and aliveness rarely exist together. Being safe means avoiding the risk of pain, but it also means avoiding the possibility of deep love, real friendship, and true belonging. You cannot selectively numb emotions. You cannot shut out sadness without also shutting out happiness. And you cannot block heartbreak without also blocking love. When you tear down the walls, you give yourself permission to feel again, to trust again, to hope again, and in that vulnerability, life begins to flow back into you. Many people keep their walls because they believe they are protecting themselves, but what they are really protecting is an old wound that has already healed. They live as if the same pain will repeat forever, forgetting that they have grown stronger since the last time they were hurt. The heart is resilient. It is meant to break and heal, to stretch and open wider with each experience. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment has taught you something about what you deserve, about what love really means, about what kind of peace you will no longer trade away. You do not need those walls anymore. You need boundaries built on self-respect, not fear. And there is a big difference between walls and boundaries. Walls keep everyone out, but boundaries let love in safely. When you begin to tear those walls down, the world might still disappoint you, people might still leave, and life might still sting, but you will also find kindness in unexpected places, compassion from strangers, and beauty in the smallest moments. You will laugh louder, breathe deeper, and sleep lighter, because your heart will no longer be carrying the heavy armor of self-protection. You will start to see that strength is not about never being hurt. It is about choosing to stay open and even after you have been hurt. Tearing down the walls means choosing faith over fear, connection over control, and truth over illusion. It means saying, I would rather feel everything than feel nothing. I would rather risk being hurt than live numb, because numbness is not peace. It is emptiness, and emptiness is not the same as healing. Healing happens when you allow the light to touch the places you once kept hidden, when you trust that love can find you again, even after heartbreak. The world will always give you reasons to build walls. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will challenge you. Fear will whisper that it is safer to hide, but you must remind yourself that your heart was not designed to live behind barriers. It was created to beat wildly, to give and receive, to break and rebuild, to expand and evolve. When you tear down the walls, you reclaim your humanity, you reconnect with your spirit, and you rediscover the beauty of being alive. There is no greater freedom than the freedom to love openly and live truthfully. You deserve to feel that freedom, to experience a life that is not ruled by fear, but by courage. So let the walls fall, let your heart breathe, let yourself be seen, and trust that what is meant for you will not require you to hide. Because every time you tear down a wall, you make space for more love, more healing, and more light to enter your life, and that is how you truly begin again. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we will ever experience, and for most of our lives, it is the quiet voice that keeps us from stepping into who we are meant to be. It disguises itself as logic, as caution, as protection, whispering that it is keeping us safe. But what it really does is keep us small. Growth begins the moment you stop running from fear and start listening to what it is trying to teach you, because fear is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is a signal, a messenger, a compass pointing toward the place where your courage is needed most. Every time you feel fear rise up inside you, it means you are standing at the edge of something new, something unknown, something that has the power to transform you if you are brave enough to take the next step. The truth is, no one escapes fear, not the strong, not the successful, not the brave. Everyone feels it, but the difference lies in how they respond to it. Some people let fear control them, and others learn to walk with it. Growth is not about eliminating fear. It is about learning to move through it with faith. When you face fear instead of avoiding it, you begin to see it for what it really is, a reflection of your potential, not your limitation. You are not afraid because you are weak. You are afraid because you are standing in front of something that matters deeply to your soul, and your heart recognizes the magnitude of what could be. We often mistake comfort for peace, but comfort is not always good for growth. Comfort keeps you stuck in what is familiar, even when it no longer fulfills you. Growth, on the other hand, demands discomfort. It asks you to stretch beyond what you know, to challenge your limits, to walk into spaces that make you doubt yourself. But every time you do, every time you lean into fear instead of retreating from it, you discover another layer of your strength. You start realizing that fear loses its power the moment you act in spite of it. There will be moments when your fear feels louder than your faith, when the unknown feels too wide to cross, but that is exactly when courage begins. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to keep going even when fear is screaming at you to stop. It is standing in the middle of uncertainty and saying, I may not know what's next, but I know I will survive this. Every time you face fear, your confidence grows, your resilience deepens, and your spirit strengthens. What once terrified you becomes your new normal. And that is how growth happens, quietly, steadily through every moment you choose bravery over avoidance. Sometimes fear will disguise itself as practicality. It will tell you that now is not the right time, that you are not ready, that you need more proof before you leap. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect time. Waiting for fear to disappear is like waiting for the ocean to stop moving before you swim. It will never happen. The only way to overcome fear is to walk straight through it, step by step, trusting that the ground will appear beneath your feet as you move forward. Growth through fear also means embracing failure as part of the process. You will fall, you will make mistakes, you will doubt yourself, but every failure carries wisdom that success cannot teach. Fear tries to convince you that failure means the end, but failure is only feedback, a teacher guiding you closer to your truth. When you start viewing fear as a sign that you are expanding, not breaking, it becomes a source of power instead of paralysis. So do not run from your fear, walk with it, learn from it, let it shape you into someone braver, wiser, and more alive. Every great thing you will ever do will start with fear. Every new chapter will begin with uncertainty, and every dream worth chasing will challenge you to step beyond what feels safe. Let fear remind you that you are still growing, still evolving, still becoming, because growth does not happen in the absence of fear. It happens when you rise, trembling but determined, and take the next step anyway. Choosing faith over fear is one of the most life-changing decisions you can ever make, because fear will always give you a reason to hold back, while faith will always give you a reason to move forward. Fear says you are not ready, you are not enough, and you might fail. But faith whispers that even if you fall, you will rise stronger. The battle between fear and faith is constant. It happens in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the choices you make when doubt begins to cloud your mind, and in the way you speak to yourself when the world feels uncertain. Fear lives in control. It wants to know every outcome before taking a step. But faith lives in surrender. It trusts that even when the path is not clear, the destination will be worth it. Every person faces moments when they must decide which voice to follow, the one that limits them or the one that lifts them. Fear limits you by convincing you that safety equals happiness, but safety without growth becomes a prison. Faith lifts you by reminding you that growth may feel uncomfortable, but it leads to freedom. Faith is not blind optimism. It is trust in something deeper, a belief that your journey has meaning even when you cannot see the whole picture. It is understanding that you are guided, that there is purpose in every delay, and that even your detours are leading you where you are meant to be. There will be seasons when fear feels louder than faith, when you wake up feeling heavy with uncertainty, when every step forward feels like walking through fog. In those moments, faith is not about having all the answers. It is about taking one small step and believing that the next will appear. You may not know how things will work out, but faith says, I will try anyway, I will move anyway, I will trust anyway. Every great story of transformation begins with that choice. The choice to walk by faith and not by sight. When you choose faith over fear, you also choose possibility over limitation. Fear locks your mind into what could go wrong, but faith opens your heart to what could go right. Fear sees problems, faith sees potential. Fear focuses on loss, faith focuses on purpose. The energy you give to fear drains your spirit, but the energy you give to faith fuels your courage. Every thought you think becomes a seed, and when you water the seed of faith, you start to see hope grow even in the darkest soil. Faith does not remove challenges, it transforms how you face them. It does not promise an easy road, but it gives you strength for the journey. When you walk in faith, you stop needing everything to be perfect before you begin. You stop waiting for proof before believing in yourself. You begin to understand that the most powerful miracles happen after you take the first step, not before it. Faith teaches you patience, resilience, and gratitude. It teaches you that sometimes not getting what you want is a form of protection, and that what feels like an ending can actually be a beginning in disguise. Fear thrives on uncertainty, but faith thrives on trust. Fear asks, what if I fail? But faith asks, what if I fly? Fear builds walls, faith builds bridges. Fear paralyzes you, faith moves you. And every time you choose faith, you weaken fear's hold over your life. Each time you act with courage instead of hesitation, you remind yourself that you are not powerless, that you are guided, that your steps are leading somewhere meaningful. Choosing faith over fear is not a one-time decision, it is a daily practice. It is waking up each morning and saying, I may not know what today will bring, but I will face it with trust. It is replacing self-doubt with self-belief, worry with gratitude, and hesitation with action. It is realizing that life will never be free of uncertainty, but it will always be full of opportunity. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the determination to keep moving even when fear is present. And the more you choose faith, the more fearless you become, because faith reminds you that you are never walking alone and that every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming everything you were meant to be. There comes a point in every life when you realize that change will not arrive on its own. It begins the moment you decide to create it. The next 15 years of your life depend on the decision you make today, not tomorrow, not someday, but right now in this moment. One turning point can redefine everything about your path, because transformation is not born from luck or chance. It is born from choice. You have the power to decide who you will become, what you will release, and what you will build from this day forward. The question is not whether you can, but whether you will. Life will not wait for your fear to fade or your confidence to grow. It moves forward with or without you, and it is up to you to move with it. Every person who has ever achieved greatness, peace, or purpose began with one defining moment when they said, enough, I will no longer live on autopilot. I will no longer let fear lead. I will no longer wait for approval to live my truth. They decided to begin again, and that decision changed everything. The next 15 years are not hidden in the future. They are planted in the present, in the thoughts you think, the choices you make, and the actions you take each day. Every time you choose growth over comfort, honesty over pretense, purpose over distraction, you shift the course of your destiny. It is easy to think that change must be dramatic, that you need a perfect plan or the right conditions before you start, but that is not how transformation works. It starts quietly in the decision to show up differently, to speak your truth, to believe in yourself even when the evidence is not visible yet. The most powerful turning points in life rarely happen in front of an audience. They happen in solitude, when you decide to take ownership of your story. And once you make that choice, life begins to respond. People appear, opportunities open, and strength grows where fear once lived. The next 15 years can either repeat the patterns of the last 15, or they can become the most extraordinary years of your life, and that difference begins with awareness. You must become conscious of what you are creating through your daily thoughts and habits. Every small choice adds up. Every moment of courage compounds. Every act of faith shapes your future. The power lies not in one grand gesture, but in the consistency of your commitment. Growth is not a single event. It is a daily decision to keep becoming, to keep showing up, to keep choosing yourself even when the world doesn't understand. There will be times when doubt creeps in and whispers that change is impossible, that you are too late, too broken, too tired, but those are lies born from fear. You are not too late, you are right on time, because this moment is the only moment you truly have control over. You cannot go back and rewrite your past, but begin now and change the ending. The next 15 years of your life can be filled with peace, love, meaning, and purpose, but only if you decide to start today. The truth is, the turning point is never dramatic on the outside. It happens within, when something inside you shifts from hesitation to determination. It is the moment you stop asking for signs and start becoming one. It is when you realize that the power you have been searching for was never out there. It was always within you. That inner decision to rise, to heal, to try again is what creates miracles. So right now, ask yourself what kind of life you want to look back on 15 years from now. Do you want to remember the years you spent hiding behind fear, or the years you chose to live with courage and faith? Do you want to be someone who waited for things to happen, or someone who made them happen? The turning point begins here, in this exact moment, in this exact breath. Because when you decide to take responsibility for your life, when you decide that your dreams deserve effort, when you decide that you will no longer live in hesitation, that is when everything begins to change. This moment is your new beginning, and it will define not just the next 15 years, but the rest of your life. Every word spoken, every truth shared leads to one simple yet powerful realization. Your life is shaped not by chance, but by choice. The next 15 years will not be written by circumstance or luck. They will be written in by your courage to live authentically, to embrace vulnerability, to tear down the walls that hold you back, to rise every time fear tries to silence your voice, and to choose faith when the path ahead is unclear. The journey of transformation does not begin with the world changing around you. It begins with you changing within. You have learned that one moment can shift everything. That perfection is a lie and authenticity is freedom. That vulnerability is not weakness, but the doorway to strength. That the walls you built for safety only imprison your spirit. That fear is not your enemy, but your teacher. That faith is not about certainty, but about trust. And that your future begins with one powerful decision made today. These are not just ideas to think about. They are truths to live by, because when you begin to live them, life responds with clarity, opportunity, and peace. Every day from moment forward, you will stand at a crossroad between comfort and courage, between fear and faith, between repeating the past and creating a new story. Choose truth, choose to begin again. Because your next 15 years are waiting, and they are not meant to be lived half-heartedly or behind walls of fear. They are meant to be lived fully, deeply, honestly, and with purpose. You owe it to yourself to step into the life that calls you, not the one that limits you. The power to transform is already inside you, waiting to be awakened by your choice to act, to trust, to believe. And when you look back years from now, you will not remember every detail of this speech, but you will remember the moment you decided to take your power back, the moment you said yes to your truth, the moment you began to live the life you were always meant to live. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and step forward. This is your time. This is your turning point. The next 15 years of your life begin now.